Welcome to the Deep Dive into Agile Marketing Podcast with your host, John Cass. Together, we'll take a closer look at the ins and outs of marketing through an Agile lens. You'll learn from interviews with top Agile thought leaders and practitioners and gain fresh new insights for your journey. Let's get ready to dive in.
Welcome to the Deep Dive into Agile Marketing with John Cass. I'm your host, John Cass, here in Boston, Massachusetts. Today, I'll be interviewing Giannina Rachetta, who is the Product Marketing Manager at 3M. Welcome, Giannina.
Hi, John. Happy to be here and to talk all things Agile marketing.
So in preparing for this call, we talked a little bit about your journey in using Agile marketing. I think we should start with that. Let's start by asking you about your background on your marketing journey. How did that lead to starting with Agile marketing and product marketing at 3M?
So really my Agile marketing journey started back in 2000 when I was working in marketing at a growing Forbes 500 fast-growing tech company in upstate New York. Working with the product teams there, I kind of watched how the development teams were slowly but surely adopting the Agile methodology, which was new at the time, and kind of watched how they evolved with that. So that was kind of neat. It was great privilege looking back and being there at that time. And if you fast forward then to about 2013, when I started working for 3M, as a sideway, just for everyone, kind of setting the stage. I work in the Health Information Systems division for 3M. It's a 3M large company. We have many divisions. So we, in my division, we work on software development for hospitals basically and health organizations. So my division produces software solutions, right? So from the get-go, in fact, from my interview, during my interview process, I was asked if I knew what Agile or Scrum was, and I knew then that I was going to fit in just fine. So as part of my job at the time in product marketing, I would participate from all their development teams, grooming sessions, sprint reviews, prioritization meetings, etc. So I was very familiar with the methodology, again, from the software development side, right? So it wasn't really until about 2015, I think, when I really got into using Agile methodologies applied to marketing. It was while I was working with a different team in different product that was just about to hit the market, and we needed to work fast with many moving pieces, lots of coordination within cross-functional teams, communications up and down the chain. Stakeholders were heavily involved, and there was a lot of reporting, especially on the status of all the deliverables and such. So actually one of my teammates at the time from the business side, he suggested creating a board, an Agile board. And at the time, if you understand, we were working off of SharePoint and Excel spreadsheets. I don't know what you think about SharePoint or your listeners think about SharePoint, but it is really not very adequate for sprinting. So I took one look at the tool. At doing a sprint board, and it was a no-brainer, right? And I have not looked back since. I immediately, since 2015, I started teaching myself how to use the tool. I watched all the videos and all the trainings. The tool I'm talking about is Jira. Our company has many tools available to us, and that was the one that we kind of used at the beginning. And the more I got into it, the more excited I got. I recall creating a 45-slide PowerPoint presentation that I sent to our senior VP of marketing at the time with my own little 3M version of Agile Marketing Manifesto, and it was very much in the beating the drum But we were a little too early at that time as an organization to adopt it. I think we were just starting to kind of um, understanding what that was and how to work in that type of methodology. So once we eventually got there as a corporation, things got very exciting.
Well, that's great. So, you've been an agile marketer for a couple of years now, which is great. How has the agile function in the marketing organization developed over time as you've seen it progress and mature?
Sure. Um, I mean, 3M at a large, and I'm not sure how when things were really cooking, probably earlier than that, but back in 2017 is when we got a, an invitation. 3M does regular presentations. All marketers are welcome to attend. They offer various topics on marketing, and our marketing forum series, and the topic was agile marketing, and the speaker was Scott Brinker. So I was very, as you can imagine, very excited about that, and just watching as our organization was kind of fully embracing the agile marketing mindset, and how that we started our adoption journey back in 2017. So what is great about in my experience about this the organization is that in leadership, our leadership, they give us all the space that we need to organize ourselves the best way we want, and as long as we can demonstrate the results in a clear way, they usually leave us to organize ourselves as we need to. So agile marketing is great for that, and with that in mind, we're able to use some of the methodologies. It's not strict. We can use the principles or go all the way into sprint, sprint Scrum or Kanban, whichever one we want. And there are resources now available where we can take trainings if we want to, and kind of organize ourselves that way. So as far as the development over time, in my division specifically, in my experience, we have still a mix of folks that have adopted the agile marketing mindset and methodologies, and certainly the tools, and some others that are still a little they're still going through that journey. But every time that I work with anyone in our cross-functional teams or within our marketing corporation as well, we get more converts, as I call them. They're slowly but surely realizing the benefits of using agile marketing within our organization. I like to say that we used to be perceived as this obscure black hole, where we would be asked or told by some stakeholders, "Oh, do your marketing thing," right? And I didn't really much appreciate that comment. I'm sure other marketers may agree. It is kind of like putting marketing in one big blob, and the way to get out of that mindset is through agile marketing. Is our ability to then show the work and show all the steps that take, not just to stakeholders, but to ourselves, and realize, the extent of the work that we need to do in order to get something out the door.
Well, isn't that, I think, one of the critical benefits from agile marketing, Giannina, that you're giving information and there's greater transparency for those stakeholders. So it helps them understand. There's a better realization, if you will, of what marketers do, and how has that also helped with perhaps the teams that you work with in doing self-management? How is the transparency to the other stakeholders, and the stakeholders realizing it's important to give marketing teams greater self-management? How's that impacted that, and also how's it working for them as a team for self-management?
Sure. So, I mean, it's greatly. It's agile marketing principles and using the tools. It really does allow us to have that ability to self-manage. There is this great video out there from, I think it's from Spotify, on agile culture. It's a bit old now, but it talks about how in order to be successful, teams need to be autonomous but aligned. And this is perfect in marketing because we can let our creative juices work and get to where we need to go, and divide the large pieces of work into small attainable chunks and get to work, right? So that's the aspect of self-management that really works well using this methodology and applying it to marketing. We can be talking all the way from just a short marketing or ad campaign to a large, trade show, epic that we need several months to do. And the way to show to show that transparency where we are in any given moment is through agile marketing and using some of the tools like, I follow the Scrum model to the large extent, and I conduct sprints and sprint reviews, and we do daily stand-ups and so forth. So stakeholders are all invited in to attend to my sprint reviews, and I invite some stakeholders to my grooming sessions to help me prioritize the work. And I'm able to now show, after doing this for a few years now, how, what the level of effort is for any given piece of marketing collateral. Before, I wouldn't really know. I would think, oh yeah, in 2 weeks I can get this done. And then, week one, after week one, you get another request for another thing, and you're like, well, you have 2 weeks, you can get it done. And you don't realize all the workload that keeps getting added to it. And then at the end of the day, you may have, I don't know, working on 10 things and not getting any of them done, missing your deadlines, and not really being able to pinpoint why, and then turning around and going into, doing it in an agile marketing mindset and methodology. You can very well negotiate with the stakeholders how much time, or show them, in real live boards, your past sprints and any given asset that you may have done in the past, and say, now I know a case study will take me 3 sprints to do because of all these deliverables, of all the editors that need to check on the copy, on the approvals, on the design team that needs to design revisions, etc. So you're in a better position to negotiate with stakeholders and show them the work because it's there. It's time stamped with all the dependencies and the level of effort. That's in agile terms, it's story points, which I love.
Right. So what maybe another question I was interested in was what's your process for managing agile, and in some detailed examples, and how is that interacting with the tools that you're using? Could you give some examples for, say, small projects and larger projects?
Sure. So when you say the process of managing agile, I think of the 2 pieces, right? One is philosophical and the other one is practical. So the philosophical is the mindset, managing that methodology of getting their product requirements. In marketing, this could be a case study or a trade show or a new price promotion, all of that, and get your backlog prioritized and so forth. So once you get all those pieces in place, you're well in your way.
Well, one question I had, you talked about the whiteboards, for example. Is your team all in the same spot, or do you have distributed teams that aren't able to be in the same room? Are there any differences there in how you use tools?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it is interesting. There is this notion that teams need to be close together, in distance, and they need to be in one room, and that's of course ideal, right? And that's where you can whiteboard and do all that. But nowadays, with a lot of folks remote, I'm remote myself. Um, our teams are spread throughout the country, and I am working in 2 different time zones. Uh, Using the electronic tools available really help and make it so that we can just constantly be in touch. One of the things that how I organize and manage my agile process is with daily stand-ups. So once I have a sprint running, I have my daily stand-ups with the teams, and we are all on the same page. And if you know what a daily stand-up is, the 15-minute, actually standing and just talking about what you did, yesterday, what are you going to do today, and what are your impediments. And that way we can get organized for the day. And we have our Jira board. They are visible, and we can be moving things as we complete them into the different buckets, the to-dos, in process, and done. And if we need any help or if we need any escalations, we can send each other's messages as we keep working, or get on impromptu calls and review items on the fly, and moving them forward through the chain. So that's one thing I did this morning with my team, as we were reviewing a new piece of collateral.
So you were working on that piece of collateral this morning. One other question I had related to that is, do you have now a better handle on the time it takes to do various product marketing and marketing creative tasks? How does using Agile with marketing help address timelines for those stakeholders that are out there?
Oh, it really helps with that visibility when we're able to, again, in the way that I organize myself and I follow the Scrum methodology. During my sprint reviews, I can clearly show my stakeholders, these are all the items that were completed in this sprint, which is about 2 weeks, or most of our sprints, 2 to 3 weeks, depending. And say the new assets that we're working on currently. This may be a larger asset that will require 2 rounds of sprints. So at the end of sprint 1, what we're showing is what we have completed at the time. So if we have a mock-up, then we can show it and get the feedback right away. Or say we have a setback from some external force, or if we couldn't get into, I don't know, the graphic designer's timeline, we can have that discussion during the sprint review, and the stakeholders understand what that is. Why things are either being held up, or if we can escalate and they can help kind of open up a way for us to keep moving forward. If this is something that's critical, then that conversation is happening. And it really super helps with also kind of not policing, but having that discussion about whether we can insert anything else during a sprint or not, any other piece of work.
Well, you mentioned previously or earlier that the marketing was considered before something of a black hole. What's been the response from stakeholders to the use of Agile marketing?
Well, so it's been great overall, and I can give you a quick example. So not so long ago, I had a situation where there were some folks in adjacent functions that wanted to get a better understanding of a specific campaign that I was working on at the time. And what I did is I invited them to my sprint reviews, and I have not heard any inquiries or complaints since. That to me is very, very clear indication that this is the right, the right way of going forward with our communications and improving our communications, our visibility and our transparency as we work our campaigns. It definitely cuts the need of for any excessive update meetings. We're all, in one room, either personally or virtually, and we can all get the, everybody is invited to get the same update on what things, what are the things that we're working on, and what are our impediments, if we have any, and what have we done, if we have been able to address them, or if we need anybody's help. You may have the right person in the room that can kind of help, mitigate some of that, and get that feedback right away. As we may be creating a piece of content that may have a very specific requirement, and you have the stakeholder right there during the meetings that they can provide any feedback and just be in the know.
How does that created transparency with stakeholders that you just talked about change the way that stakeholders work with marketers? How does it change their perception of what marketing it is and how marketers work?
So I had a very interesting experience when I was working on I took on a new product line. So it was, even though I had been working at 3M for a while, and I had been, working in this, using Agile marketing for a while, I was new to this group, and it was a mix of software development, product owners, and business folks. And from the very beginning, I set the stage and said, working using Agile marketing methodologies, you're going to see a sprint review meeting. You're going to be invited to it, and I can show you the work. And it is very interesting how the mindset flips. So, again, to your point earlier about that black hole of marketing, what is it? What does marketing do? It becomes very open to all the different things that we are working on, whether it's campaigns, a specific e-blast or whatnot, to trade shows, to large, client events, etc. They know, and then so the conversation becomes this almost like a handshake. And I had this experience with this one product owner who immediately, because he knew exactly what I was talking about, he goes, well, I don't want to disturb your sprint. You may want to consider doing this or this. So we were kind of like talking in the same terms. So it levels the field a little bit in the communication aspect of it, and we're both able to talk about it the same language, right? He understands what I mean when I say I have this epic and it has 5 action items within, and it's going to be a 30 12 level of effort or more. They understand what that means, and we're able to have that conversation and that kind of handshake of having each other's back.
That makes absolute sense. And I think what's interesting is that you have a stakeholder who, because they have a greater understanding of what's going on, they're anticipating, they're anticipating not making requests, which is kind of cool, right?
Yes, and but there's always, we always come across, well, there's the fire drill, right? That we need to, you know, put our communication out. And the great thing about this is I can, put my Scrum Master hat and have that negotiation with the stakeholder and say, okay, I understand their fire drills, or, we need to take care of them. And here is what I'm working on. What, what of this 5 things I'm doing, one of them is not going to get done, and that's just the reality of it, right? Um,
Yeah.
so it is that understanding of looking at things placed on a whiteboard and saying, okay, I understand this is a fire drill, and this is going to disrupt your work. Um, they understand. So there is not a pull push that I would have had to deal with in the past, but it's more of an understanding. Okay, I get it. You're gonna I'm going to replace this item. This is going to become a priority, and I'm going to add it to my sprint midway through it. Which if you're very rigid in I don't know, it's a big no. But reality is things happen, and you have to accommodate. And I'm able to put it in, and taking one item, physically taking it out of the sprint, I'm putting it back in the top of the backlog, not at the bottom of the backlog, but in the top of the backlog, and then working through it. And then if things work fine, then things can be moved back up, and we can work on things in parallel, ideally. But there is that visibility of what the work that you're doing, and how long things take with the story points, that you're able to manage that. And it's a great. I'm a total believer in this methodology. Great, it's a great way to just keep that communication, keep the just transparency of what are you working on, and managing those type of fire drills that are inevitable.
So, maybe not specifics, but what sort of general results have you achieved with Agile marketing over the years?
Well, I can't disclose our KPIs, but I can tell you that I am in my 60-some sprint for my current product portfolio, and I have 14 issues I am currently working on, covering about 5 epics, 5 large pieces of work, and I have mapped out the next 90 days of work with additional 30 plus backlog items. Like our backlog items, by the way, I like to call them awesome ideas that have not yet been, fully developed. I don't know that anyone not following Agile marketing can have such a deep notion of what they're doing at any given time and be able to just show it. That to me is a big win. Needless to say, I mean, our ability to produce the work and get it out the door faster is not just to say; it really is the reality.
Well, those are 2 really big excellent results that you can get from Agile marketing. So, looking to the future, how do you approach Agile marketing now after 5 years in using the method at 3M? What do you think, and also what do you think the future will bring for Agile marketing from your experiences?
I mean, I think that Agile marketing is here to stay. I think that as we continue to evolve, I believe that the more people that adopt it in my organization see the benefits. I mentioned earlier, I think when I work with a new team, I train them on Agile marketing. I basically give them a crash course if they haven't seen it or heard from it before. I had a great experience with an intern last summer where we I completely converted him into agile marketing, and then he went off to work with another team, and he was like, well, I can't work with them. They don't follow agile marketing. So they, tapped me back, and they're like, oh, can you please, give us training? And so I was happy to do it. So I think that it is continues to grow in adoption, and it's just, once we get everybody in it, I believe we're going to see greater collaboration, greater ability to test, and conduct those, we call it, small experiments, those, short test campaigns, and be able to tweak them and make them better and release them to the larger audience faster. So the more that we do that, I think that's just going to be better for us as an organization.
Giannina, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Anytime.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive into Agile Marketing with John Cass today. My thanks for Giannina, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Deep Dive into Agile Marketing podcast. Be sure and subscribe to our show and leave a review to let us know what you thought of today's episode. And if you like what you heard and want to learn more, visit www.businessagility.institute.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the Boys Club of Advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.